Andy, and today I'm going to be filming my June wrap up. This is very, very late because I ended up getting COVID, and then I was on holiday for 2 weeks, and it took me just about that long to even recover, and I'm still not recovered yet. I'm filming this on the 11th of June, and I'm going to be on the 11th of July, and I'm going to be batch filming because I got so behind and missed at least 3 videos because I was dying from COVID. Not literally, but like figuratively. So yeah, today is going to be my June wrap up. In June I participated in 2 readathons. One was Whateverathon and one was Marvelathon. So all of the books I'm about to show you went towards both of those readathons. This month I read 14 books, and that was, let me just double check my numbers, a grand total of 4,979 pages. And I'm quite proud of that, considering I tanked my TBR partway through the month because I was not feeling it, and considering I didn't read for a while because of COVID, because I just felt horrible. I was really, really not well with it, to the point where I was considering you know, contacting the doctor, going to the hospital, stuff like that, because I really couldn't. I was suffering with it on top of my EDS, so I was really, really unwell. Now I'm sort of still exhausted and still a little bit short of breath, things like that, but otherwise I'm fine. But today is hot as balls, so I'm also, you know, roasting from that. But yeah, let's get on with this video and let me show you what I read in June. The first book I read in June was The Wailing Woman by Mary Lewis. This was actually gifted to me, and I can't remember who gifted it because it didn't come with a note, but this was for one of the Patreon things that I take part in. I think it was Spoopses, and we do a thing every sort of holiday that comes up, and we send each other gifts, and this was a gift as part of that. The Wailing Woman by Mary Lewis is a continuation of the Tommy Grayson series that I have read and loved, and it is about Sadie, who is a banshee, and she's the first banshee to have let out a banshee scream or a banshee wail in over 100 years, so she becomes hunted by the people that are supposed to be their sort of government in this world. It is based in our world, but with a twist that these magical creatures exist, but there's also a twist that Sadie is pregnant and there is a prophecy about her babies. So yeah, I absolutely loved this. 5 stars again from Mary Lewis. She's a fantastic author, and she's Scottish and Maori, so she's a fantastic reader to read from. The point of view that you get from sort of the, I think this is based in Australia or New Zealand, I can't quite remember, is fantastic, and they travel the world. But yeah, one of my favourites so far this year. The next book I read was Eletra by Jennifer Saint, and this is about the character of Eletra from Greek myth. I believe also, yeah, it also follows Clytemnestra and Cassandra, and this is basically all about women who are affected by the Trojan War and the effect that it had on them. And not the best Greek retelling I've read. I enjoyed it, but I think it might have been me because I was really, like I say, with COVID, I just wasn't feeling up to reading, so yeah. I don't remember much of this because I've been reading quite a few Greek retellings, which is probably my own fault. But yeah, also quite enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed the cover. The next thing I read was an ebook called The Egg. It is a 3-page ebook by Andy Weir, who is the author of The Martian, which is one of my favourite books, and it was such a weird story about God and reincarnation, and it is free, it's available free somewhere. I'll try and remember to link it down below, but it is an unusual story but interesting at the same time, and I was prompted to read this by my friend Tori because she knew I needed something quick that would hit some prompts. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but I'm still confused by it, and I think that's a fair assessment. Next thing I read was A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour by Hank Green, and I listened to this on audio as well as reading the physical book along with it because they do a really good cast audio for this. and I really enjoyed that in the first book as well. This basically follows on from an absolutely remarkable thing where the Carls have appeared, these strange statues, these alien things made of metal that they call the Carls, and April and her friends get wrapped up in this mystery, and this is basically just what happens after that book. I don't want to say any more because it'll spoil it, but I actually really enjoyed this, and I was dreaming about it and thinking about it for days after I read it. So if you like sci-fi and kind of wacky sci-fi, I would definitely recommend this. The next book I read was The Leviathan by Rosie Andrews. This is pretty much kind of a cover buy because look at those sprayed edges. I got this book a while ago and was really interested in the concept, but it didn't really live up to what I was expecting. It says it's set in the Civil War in England, and Thomas has come home to find his dad sick, and his sister acting strange. She's then, it seems that she's changed somehow, and their servant is accused of witchcraft, and it's all about Thomas sorting this out. And there's this ship called the Leviathan, or this creature called the Leviathan, and it sounded really interesting in concept, but I feel like she grabbed two stories and ran them together and didn't really tie it in very well. So great concept. I think it could have been executed a lot better though. But just look at that. The next book I read was A Witch in Time by Constance Sayers. I liked this more than I thought I was going to like it. This is about a girl who is sort of accidentally cursed, and she's on her fourth lifetime, and she only remembers it after a certain point, and it triggers her guardian to come and get her. But there's so much more to it than that, and you get the story from both the original perspective and the other lifetimes, but the most sort of prominent perspective is from the now timeline, where she's just finding all this out, and that's based in 2012. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed this. It's hard to describe how it was, but it was kind of like Dan Brown-esque mixed with historical fiction and jumping timelines, and I really like when we jump timelines like that, so definitely something I would recommend to anybody who likes that sort of concept. If you like Outlander, you're probably going to like this, if I'm being honest. The next book I read was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This again is a beautiful sprayed edge copy. It was the last one in the Waterstones that I went to, and I managed to get it months after it had been released, so I'm so grateful to the bookseller that grabbed that for me from the window. And Gallant is a strange sort of, I don't know if you'd call it a mystery, or I don't know how to sort of put this, where a girl, she's living in this orphanage school thing, and all she has is a book, diary sort of thing from her mum, and it says, not to go to Gallant, you'll be safe as long as you don't go to Gallant. And then she receives a letter from her uncle asking her to come to Gallant, which is the family home. She goes to Gallant only to discover that her uncle died a while ago, and nobody knows why she's been called there. And it goes from there. There's a sort of shadow house involved in this, a shadow Gallant, and it was actually really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was not what I expected at all, but I actually did really enjoy it. I think it could have been expanded on a little bit, but for what it was, I really enjoyed it. Next up is While Paris Slept by Ruth Druart. This is a World War II historical fiction, and it is kind of after the war and during the war. So it is about a family who are in America, and they left France during the war. They escaped to America with their son, and then we go back and find out how they got to America and how they got their son, because he was actually born to a Jewish couple who were put into an internment camp, and he was passed along during their transport to a concentration camp. But what the family that took him don't know is that the family survived, and it all kind of spirals out of control from there. You see both perspectives from both the birth mother and the adoptive family, and you also get to see 1944 and 1953 and the differences, and it was just such a good read. It's a massive thick book, but it went so quickly because it was so well written and so easy to digest, and it was just fantastic. This is where things went a little bit haywire, so those, other than Egg, those were all in my original TBR. I was on Team Scarlet Witch for Marvelathon, which means that I was predominantly trying to read things with heartbreak or witches involved, which you'll see in all of that sort of pile there that I've just gone through. And then on the Whateverathon, I was on Team Shelf Slayers, and I sort of went for the Marvelathon prompts first and then put everything into the Whateverathon prompts, because Whateverathon does have really good broad prompts to sort of fit things into. So I managed to fill in quite a lot of the prompts with those books as well. So the next thing I read that got me out of my slump was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. This is not what I was expecting at all. I thought this was going to be a fluffy adult rom-com, and it was so much more. I don't even know if I want to tell you what this is about, but it is a romance, and it is set on the background of the adult entertainment industry, and you get to meet people who are in the adult entertainment industry in many different ways, and the way that they are treated, the way that they are affected by it, and the backdrop of a character who has come from this sort of high standing political family who's thrust into this world and decides she wants to understand and she wants to help these people, but not in this sort of way that you'd think. Absolutely love this, love the two characters and all the side characters, everything. I absolutely love this book that I immediately bought its sequel, and you'll see that in a second. So this follows Clara and Josh. Clara is planning to move across the country to LA to move in with her high school crush, who is also her best friend. When she gets to LA, she discovers that he has booked a gig and he will be travelling, and he is not going to be staying with her, but he has rented out his room to Josh, and as you can imagine, forced proximity, everything goes from there. From reading The Roommate, I went straight into The Intimacy Experiment, again by Rosie Danan. This follows one of her characters from The Roommate, which is Naomi, who is Josh's ex, and she decides to set up classes in the synagogue, or she ends up setting up classes in the synagogue with Ethan, who is our other character. And this is really important, I feel, because it looks at the intersection between Naomi being a sex worker and also our Jewish faith, and Ethan and his Jewish faith, and how he sort of comes up against interacting with someone who's in sex work and adult entertainment, and then also how everybody else reacts. And it's just a fantastic book. These books are so important, and I can't give them enough praise, but they are steamy. So if you're not into that, I wouldn't read those at all. I was quite shocked by some of it, which is honestly just shows how much of a boring person I am, but you know. The next book I read was one that I was really excited about, and that was Rivals, which is the third American Royals book. This copy has really annoyed me because it is massive compared to the UK paperbacks. I think this is actually an American paperback, but well, I'll just have to deal with it. This is the third book in this series. I don't know how many books there are going to be. This ended on a hell of a cliffhanger, so hopefully there's going to be at least another one. And this follows Beatrice, who is the Queen of America, and her family, and basically just the next steps of what happens when she's coronated. And it's basically like car crash TV. Think like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but they're royals, and it's kind of similar to that, but it's just a fun, easy read, and you know, if you want something you can just binge through, I would definitely recommend this. The next book I read was The Children of Cleopatra by Natalie Haynes. This book actually took me the whole month to read because I started it on the 1st of the month, I believe. This is meant to be my first read of the month, and I ended up finishing it right at the end of the month because I struggle bus through this. This is about Jocasta and her children in Greek myth, and it was probably the most boring retelling I've read, which is surprising because I really liked Natalie Haynes' other book that I've read. So again, maybe it was just me because of COVID and how I was feeling. I just didn't really connect with the book. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, it was just very much the same. I have been reading lots of Greek retellings, one after the other, so again, it might be me. But yeah, basically just Jocasta and her daughter's stories told from their perspectives. Great tragedy. Not much else I can say about it. The next book is A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings, and this was a gift from Becca Fowle for the Spoopy Pride event that we have. That's one of the gifting events that we do. So she got me this, and she also got me one of those octopuses that turn it inside out and, you know, have the smiley face or the frowny face depending on how you're feeling. Used that a lot when I had COVID. But this is about dental students, and it's a romance, it's a rom-com. I read this around about the same time as I read The Intimacy Experiment, and the main character in this is also Jewish, which I thought was quite funny because, you know, I've not seen much Jewish representation in books, and then to have two back to back, I just thought was quite strange. But basically we've got our characters whose names I'm really bad at remembering. We have Harper and we have Dan. Harper is a first year resident student, or she's basically been through it and she's getting ready to go into her speciality for dental school. And then we have Dan, who has previously gone through university and decided he didn't like it, so started doing dentistry, or he did like it but his parents didn't want him to do it. Started doing dentistry, and he's in his, you know, second or third year or something like that, and they literally crash into each other, and that's how the story starts. My favourite character in this was probably Judy, who is Harper's Maine Coon cat. She is big booty Judy and scared the crap out of Dan the first time she met him. I love that scene so much that I actually had to stop reading and tweet the author because I thought it was just hilarious, and I absolutely love Judy, and I need more Judy in this book, please. But yeah, it was such a good read. I was a dental nurse for a while before I got really unwell with my UCS, so it was so nice to see dentistry in a book setting. It was quite interesting to watch. Definitely recommend this. Good, fluffy romance. Just what I needed at the time. And lastly, I needed one more book to fill one more prompt on the bingo board for Marvelathon, because this year they were bingo boards, and I needed something to read quick because it was in my last like 12 hours of the month. So I decided to pick up Heartstopper, and, you know, read it for the third time. Absolutely loved it again. I always love Heartstopper. Got a new Heartstopper tattoo, so who's surprised? I'm not. 5 stars again. If I need to tell you about Heartstopper, then I don't know where you've been. Basically, you've got Nick and Charlie. Charlie is out as gay at his all-boys school, and he ends up befriending Nick, and they fall in love. Boy meets boy. I don't know what else to say about it. It's the cutest thing, and it's got the best illustrations. It's also available on Webtoons if you want to give it a wee try out. I accidentally read the entirety of it on Webtoons before going to buy them in the bound up format. So yeah, definitely recommend. I want everybody to go read Heartstopper, watch Heartstopper, and it's free on Webtoons, so nothing's stopping you. Just go read it. Go. But come back first till I finish the video. So that's my June wrap up. I can't believe how much I read in June, especially how awful I was feeling. Don't think I would have read more if I hadn't been feeling awful, because something else would have come up anyway. But yeah, so that is the June wrap up. Hopefully that has been interesting for you. I've not filmed in a while and I'm still feeling really rough, on top of it being hot as balls today. So yeah, I am going to go film some more videos now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!